to be the villain. The book doesn't once describe how he's a villain. This story, I'm gonna read this book, read it for the spice. Hello everyone, so in this video we're going to be talking about all the books that I read in September. Now, this month was really interesting because I was officially like a month out of my book slump, and now I think I'm going back into one. In good news, I did pick back up my Kindle. I'm really excited to talk about the first book I read because it's just so interesting. So the book's called Death's Obsession. It's about a girl who's been stalked and she doesn't know who it is, and someone's leaving little notes and gifts around for her and she has no idea who it is. And so this is a book between the Grim Reaper. The most interesting thing about this is I believe this book came out in 2022 or 2023, but 2 years ago I wrote a short story about a girl and the Grim Reaper, and what's even weirder is I named my character Lilith because it means like evil, and the girl in this book is also called Lilith. Isn't that so weird? This story, a lot of my friends know that I love a good stalker romance. They're so twisted, but they're so interesting. I felt like once the chase ended, it kind of got a little bit boring. Like, I kind of felt like it could have done more. It had so much potential, this huge setup, this huge story building world, how the Grim Reaper can exist in our world. And then it kind of got it just kind of dragged a little. I still really enjoyed it. I gave it a 3 stars. If you're going to read this book, read it for the spice. Like, it's very memorable. Let's just say he has a shadow. That is 2 people. Like, you do the maths. You do the math. Do the girl maths. So yeah, it started off really strong and I was really intrigued with Letham's character. I think his biggest letdown, like, it's a short story, which makes sense that it's not going to be fully fleshed out, but I feel like it could be it had so much potential. I feel like it could have been so much better if it was a little bit longer, if it had more time and space to fully flesh out this world, fully explore the world, because I felt like the ending was really rushed as well. I do recommend this book if you're getting into dark romance, if you like spicy books. I feel like the idea was a lot better than its execution. Next I read Assistant to the Villain. Well, I have a lot to say about this book, but not in a good way. I just want to start off by saying I'm pretty sure this is an adult book, especially marketed as an adult book, but it is very much written, the narrative is giving very young adult, it's giving very like teen novel, sometimes it's a bit immature, and it doesn't have any smut, which is completely fine. An adult book doesn't have to have smut. My problem is it's meant to be an adult book, but it doesn't feel like one, it doesn't read like one, and that's what makes it less enjoyable, because you're going in expecting something and you're getting something that's completely entirely different. The only thing that makes this kind of like an adult book is it's a bit gruesome, but not really. Like, it's like a few sentences which aren't that important, and I feel like you could easily take them out and it'd be a lovely little young adult book. I actually received this as an ARC copy to read and review, and I did give this a generous 3 stars. I could totally get the vision. I could understand where it was coming from. Eve's a girl, she's kind of poor, she needs a job, and she runs into this villain and she gets employed by him. And originally I thought it was going to be just a duo kind of like idea, like they're both working together in like this secret lab and like kind of vibes, but no, she works in an office. He runs an office for his villainous activities, which is fine, but I'm not a huge fan of workplace romance. The prologue was so good, it was written so good, it was so fast paced, it was so intense. Then it does like a time jump 6 months into the future and she's working in this job and she's the villain's assistant. And my biggest annoyance in this book is the fact that he's meant to be the villain, but the book doesn't once describe how he's a villain. What it kind of hints at is that he's portrayed as a villain even when he's not. He's like a misunderstood kind of guy. He's an enemy against the king, so he's treated as a villain, he's recognised as a villain, and he doesn't deny that, he embraces it, but he doesn't redefine his villainness. He does bad things against the king, and that technically makes him a villain. You're morally grey, but like, you're not that bad, like, you're not doing that bad things, you're just going against the wicked king, so technically you're the good guy. Like, if you're going to be a villain, actually do bad things. Like, I want to be questioning my entire morality when I read a book. You're the villain, why do I like you? Evie is portrayed as a very quirky and unique kind of girl, and I thought we left that in 2014. So if you kind of like want a low stakes book, read this. I'm not doing a lot of complaining, but I don't want to completely like put you off this book, because you're allowed to like read it and make your own opinions. I just have a lot of problems with it, okay? Another point that really annoys me is it's a fantasy book, but the author and the writing kind of like underplays the fact that it is a fantasy, because it talks about dragons and it talks about magical things and living in a magical world and magic, but it kind of brushes over it. It doesn't explain it, like, where did this magic come from? Like, who's lucky enough to have magic? Are you born with magic? Do you earn magic? I know they're normal to this world, but they're not normal to me, so please explain them. Like, how do they work in this world? My other problem with this book is the fact that it's meant to be a romance book. It's meant to be a fantasy romance rom-com. Where's the romance in this? Are we reading the same book? So I think the issue here is, like, this is a TikTok sensation. So the author, I will give credit to the author, because she did a lot of marketing on TikTok. She makes some amazing videos to market and convince you to read this book. And I think what she did was she kind of played on the tropes and ideas that are really popular in book talk, like enemies to lovers, morally grey, workplace romance, the grumpy villainous boss, and the bubbly kind of sunshine assistant. She emphasised that a lot in her TikTok, but it doesn't translate in this book. So I feel like she gave the wrong impression about this book. Like, I get... This is definitely a slow burn. They kiss once in this book. I'm sorry, that's a spoiler. They don't do anything else. They kiss once. It might have been twice, actually. But the point is, I'm not asking for smut, but at least I want more development. And I will say this is book 1 in a series, but why are you giving me crumbs? Why am I waiting 300 pages for a kiss? That's not even meant to be a kiss. Like, the development is so slow in this book. Like, if you're going to give me something, give me a little bit more to work with. I don't know, if you've heard about this or read this, like, let me know what you think about it, because a lot of the reviews kind of agree with me. Like, they get the point, they get it, but there's a lot of things that could be improved on and could have went better. So it's quite reassuring that a lot of the reviews agree with me. Next, I picked up a book on my Kindle. So I read The God of Ruin by Rena Ken. Pretty sure this is the 3rd or 4th book in the series, and these are standalone books, but they're interconnected into a series. And it would have made more sense to read the books in order, but I saw a quote on a reel and it made me want to read this book. And I'm so glad I did, because I loved it. Because this is actually a stalker romance. Again, I love stalker romances. If that ever happens to me in real life, I'll be absolutely terrified. So I gave this book a 4 stars just because I really loved it, I really enjoyed it, and I can't stop thinking about it. I also gave this a 4.5 chilies, which is very high. So as I said, it's a stalker romance, it's a dark romance. There's college rivals in there, so there's 2 different colleges. It's enemies to lovers. It has a revenge kind of idea in there, and it is a forbidden love because she's from one college, she's from another, and like I said, they're rival colleges. Landon King is this kind of genius artist. He's very rich, comes from like a wealthy background, and so is Mia. They're both rich, privileged kids in this book. So Mia kind of does a prank on Landon to get revenge on him and to humiliate him, and that kind of starts his fixation on her because he wants to get back at her, and by doing that, he's going to creep on her, stalk her, and make her scared and terrified. The plot twist is she secretly likes it. It's her older brother in this book that's very protective because he's kind of enemies with Landon, so their relationship is forbidden in that way, and they're really against it. It caused a lot of fights and tensions. Like, it was brutal. Like, I read quite a few violent scenes in books, and I found these to be really uncomfortable to read. Landon's got a twin brother called Brandon, and Mia's got a twin called Maya. So there's a lot of twins in this book. I don't know if these people are eating, like, listening to Kid Bop and eating, like, grapes to get twins. That's kind of like a Sims joke. The author describes how Landon has an antisocial disorder personality. He basically lacks emotion and empathy, and he can't want to be controlled. He doesn't want to follow the rules, which is really interesting because a lot of the times we see dark romances where a lot of the main male characters have like psychopathic tendencies and they're not really explored on like a mental health side of it. Also, Mia is non-verbal, which creates an even more interesting dynamic. She does do sign language. Even though she can't physically talk, she still does not hold back. That girl stands up for herself. She's always backing herself up. It was very, very, very spicy, and I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was so okay, moving away from dark romance. Next book I read is A Thousand Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. And I read this while I was on holiday. So as you can imagine, I was sat there in my little Airbnb apartment crying my eyes out. I actually did a reel, like, of my actual reaction to the ending. This absolutely broke my heart. But I do think you should read it once in your lifetime, just because I found it quite inspiring, just because it kind of like shows how precious life is and how we should appreciate the small things in life and every second counts. But the book is about the girl next door, basically. So Ruin moves from Norway to America, and he lives next door to Poppy, and they're like 5 years old when they meet and become best friends. But then when he's 15, he has to move back to Norway for 2 years, and Poppy is absolutely heartbroken. Rune's heartbroken. They're not happy. The story kind of picks up when Rune comes back to America and everything's changed. He's now like the bad boy, he's smoking, he's wearing a leather jacket and black skinny jeans. And Poppy's changed, she's different, she's acting weird, and Rune wants to really discover what it is, and you should read it and discover, because I had no idea. Every single book tab is for either it being cute or I'm crying. I ended up giving this a 4.5 stars. Just because I feel like a few things could have been better. The tropes are: it's childhood romance, sunshine x grumpy, second chance, small town, and it deals with loss and grief. So be very mindful if you want to pick up this book. The only issue that I kind of have with this book is Poppy and Rune were kind of like proclaiming their love for each other, and it came off very like lyrically and poetically, and it was beautiful to read, but it felt quite unrealistic for like a 17-year-old to kind of understand love in quite a complex way, which they might understand it because both characters come across as very mature. But I felt like a poet wrote their lines, when I feel like they could have still been romantic, but kind of like it wasn't written by a 70-year-old basically. Read this book. Finally, I read another novella because of a reel I saw about a book which is an erotic romance about a door. This is a very unconventional book. It's very weird, it's very different, very strange. Like, I did enjoy it just because it was very interesting, it was very weird. Like, the spice in this book made me feel a bit weird. I didn't enjoy the spice, but it was such an interesting book because it had to have so much creativity in there to justify why this door had consciousness. If you want to hear my full thoughts, I actually recorded a full video of my live reaction to this book. Then go watch that video, I'll link it down below. The things I liked in this book was it was very fast paced, it was only like 69 pages. It had cute moments in it as well, like even though this sentient being was a door, it was very cute. It was very empathetic. And we also had door lore. Like, this book had a plot. I just thought this was going to be pure smut between a woman and a door, but it wasn't. It has a full backstory, it has a full depth, and like I said, I applaud the creativity. Like, how do you come up with this stuff? How do you give a backstory to a door, to a piece of wood? And it has a little bit of mystery subplot, and you kind of know what the mystery is, but the main female character doesn't. The things that I didn't like is the ending was a little rushed. Like, if you're gonna set up this like old murder mystery subplot, at least round it up a little. Like, it was rounded up, but it felt quite rushed. And then there's actually only 2.5 smut scenes in this book. And all I want to say is, if you're gonna write an erotica about a door, put more in there. Like, go full out on it. How do you write an erotica about a door and have amazing writing? Like, so some not the best writing I've ever read, but like really good writing compared to a lot of like other book talk books. I feel like these are like the most chaotic books I've read in a month. We have a heartbreaking book, a book about the Grim Reaper, a book about a door, a book about a stalker, and a book about a villain that's not actually a villain. Okay, thank you for watching this video. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and like and subscribe. And I really appreciate you watching my videos and staying to the end, so thank you very much. I'll see you later.